Now let's have a look at some high-resolution infrared photos. Look at that, folks, so much resolution, 24 megapixels. This was taken with the Sony Alpha 6000 converted to 830 nanometer infrared. Look at that, just incredible. Infrared is an amazing technology, folks, but even more amazing is what it reveals. Behold the flat earth, folks. This image is so powerful. Just have a look at this, folks. That mountain is over 123 miles away. If we were living on a globe, that mountain should not be visible.
Okay. Well, hi everyone, and greetings from Northern Michigan. This is Bob the Science Guy. One of my first experiences in flat Earth was looking at a video by JTolan Media1, where he claimed to be able to see Hudson Bay from the southern Great Lakes. In that he was almost flying over my house, I was actually quite familiar with the area, and as a pilot I'm very familiar with the landmarks of the area from the air. I was simply flabbergasted by some of his identifications and claims. Well, unfortunately he's gone on to make some more outlandish claims, and other people have started taking exception to them as well. So today I think we're going to do a profile of JTolan Media1 and ask the rhetorical question, can he even identify landmarks from the air? So let's roll the music and get going. Well, about a month and a half ago I did a critique and evaluation of his observation of Mount San Jacinto in California, titled Behold the Flat Earth. In this video he claimed to have a 10,000 foot mountain fully visible from Malibu, California, 123 miles away. I put his observation height in the advanced curve calculator along with the distance to the mountain and the elevation of that mountain, and determined that there would be no problem whatsoever seeing Mount San Jacinto from Malibu, California. However, you could only see about the top 4,500 feet. The bottom 6,000 feet were obscured by the curvature of the Earth. As you can see, it was a pretty straightforward process. I took a Google image of Mount San Jacinto. I marked it carefully with a red cross at 6,200 feet of elevation. Then I superimposed that image on JTolan Media1's high-resolution infrared image of the same location. As you can see by the dark horizon of the Pacific Ocean, and compare that to the cross, they seem to line up very nicely. JTolan Media1 may have in fact been 20 or 30 feet higher than the 150 feet he stated, and that may account for some of the differences. Although this is very clear and obvious evidence that 6,000 feet of that mountain is hidden behind the curve of the Earth, when I present this to the flat Earth community, all they can seem to say is that the horizon looks pretty flat to them. Talk about a failure to comprehend or get the memo on what this actually represents, which is quite clear to most people that look at it. Well, that was an elegant yet simple video that I did that clearly demonstrated the curvature of the Earth. There's always somebody out there that does a nicer job. I'd like to introduce you to okreylos here. He did a 3D modeling of the entire thing, and I'm going to let his words speak for themselves.
All right. This program is a multi-resolution viewer, meaning that it shows faraway objects at reduced fidelity, but it can change these rendering settings here to bring in more detail and show it in a much better quality. And there it is, ta-da! Now this is the view of that photograph recreated as closely as I can in this particular program. Now let's overlay the actual photograph with this rendering in order to see how similar they really are. And as you can see, it's about as spot on as it gets. Obviously my viewer doesn't have any buildings on it, or birds for that matter, but the Santa Monica shoreline, the intermediate foothills, and then most importantly, of course, the shape of the mountain line up pretty perfectly. I would say down to the pixel, so that's fantastic. I forgot to mention something, and that is that this viewer program here can use both a flat Earth model and a round Earth model, and we were doing this whole thing in round Earth mode. So if I show you this from the side, you can see how California is slightly curved, and this curvature is appropriate for living on a hypothetical sphere or globe with a radius of approximately 6,400 kilometers. I have a slider in this rendering dialog here where I can change the size of that globe from what it really is to completely flat, to globe, to flat, to globe, to flat. You get the idea. Now let's go back to Point Doom and see what it looks like when I use a flat Earth model. So again, this is the view, the virtual view of the mountain using a round Earth model, using a globe with a radius of 6,378.1 kilometers. And now I'm going to slowly change to a flat Earth model, and then we can see what the differences are. And whoa, okay, that's amazing. That is a huge mountain, and you can see that by just changing this back and forth, we are suddenly seeing about approximately 2,400 meters more of that mountain, as if we were using a curved Earth model. So just to be entirely certain about this, this is a rendering that matches an actual photograph which is based on a round globe, and this would be what that photograph should have looked like using a flat Earth model.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I think that that is even more conclusive than my evaluation was. And it was just some beautiful graphical work by Okreylos. While he doesn't counter reality deniers very often, he does have some fantastic graphical work on his YouTube channel. I suggest you go check it out and maybe give him a like. Now we're going to head on over to the initial video of JTolan Media1 that I evaluated and got to thinking about a little bit. I didn't do a formal debunk of this at the time, but I think it's a good time to do it right now, considering we're having a look at him. This is infrared photographs taken on a flight from Buffalo, New York to Chicago, Illinois. Many of you may have seen the headlines that Hudson Bay photographed from 900 miles. While that would be an excellent bit of evidence for a flat Earth, if it was true, I think what we're going to do is have a look at the images and show that he's no better at identifying Hudson Bay than he is at identifying Baja California. So let's have a look at his video and see what he's talking about.
Hello folks, welcome to part 2 of the Great Lakes in infrared.
Well, let's go ahead and have a look at his flight. He left from Buffalo, New York and is going to Chicago O'Hare. Here is his flight path. Notice it's a little bit curved, and that is because it's a great circle course. And recall that on a sphere, and only on a sphere, is a great circle course the shortest distance between 2 points. Also recall that on Earth, the shortest distance between 2 points is a great circle course. That should really end the video right there.
So the GPS app says we've climbed to about 28,000 feet. That's Lake Huron. Ooh, I can see across the lakes. Just amazing. Whoa, look at that. You see that darkness there? I did an analysis here by looking at the distances of 135 and 210, building up a scale and then extrapolating out. And it looks like that correlates with the Hudson Bay.
Now this is a favorite trick of JTolan. He likes to sit down and start off assuming that the Earth is flat. Now based on the fact that he is assuming the Earth is flat, he then creates this scale. He then attempts to find some object at what the scale says Hudson Bay should be and then claim that that's Hudson Bay. In this case, he's identifying a cloud layer as Hudson Bay. The true horizon is pretty clear and is at about 205 miles. Now, just to orient you a little, he's over London, Ontario, and this is the opening to Saginaw Bay. You'll see a smaller bay further to the north, that's Alpena, Michigan.
It'll be simply incredible. So we're seeing the connection of the lake there to the other.
Now, it should be very obvious that he's not looking at land here. He's looking up in the clouds. There's the land down at the very bottom of the frame. He's trying to imagine connections between lakes and rivers and mountains and stuff up in the clouds. Next, he'll find a puppy dog.
A little bit. Yeah, the perspective is so much different, you know. I've been getting used to seeing so far at these shallow angles. Everything looks so much different. Stuff that, you know, you hardly ever see.
You hardly ever see it because, honestly, it's not there. It's a cloud bank.
There's stuff in the distance there. You can't quite see it very close.
The stuff in the distance is clouds, Chief. Now, that was Alpena that you just saw, and there's the tip of the thumb of Michigan.
Some of the haze. Yeah, this... Ha ha ha! I rotated the camera to kind of give you that flying in space feeling. Actually, I was trying to see if the slight curvature we observe is due to perhaps the camera. You will notice in this clips on the right, when it moves around, the window does distort the view because the windows are curved. But I think there's more than window curvature that's at work here.
Congratulations, you've discovered a curvature of the Earth.
Due to other factors. Now we're zooming across Lake Huron.
Okay, so that's the tip of the thumb, the entrance to Saginaw Bay, and you see a smaller bay above it, that's Alpena, Michigan. The horizon at this altitude is between 205 and 215 miles.
Seeing clearly across the lake. Now that's Duck Island or something. There we go, Great Duck Island. And way in the distance, that's Hudson Bay, over 1,000 miles away. Here's a map showing the direction that we're looking. Now here's the analysis, folks, in case you don't believe it, because it is hard to believe. So I know where Duck Island is, or Great Duck Island, at about 200 miles, and then across over there, 250 miles. I take those two distances and just use simple trigonometry and find the angle on a flat plane, 1.4 degrees and 1.8.
So once again, what he's doing here is he's taking a known distance, the distance to Duck Island, and he's making an angle out of that, a triangle. And then he's putting it on a flat plane and coming up with some sort of a gradation or range mark here. And then he's trying to find something that's 1,000 miles away on that, in this case a cloud bank, and he's going to call that Hudson Bay. Now, in truth, what he's looking at is a peninsula of land just past Duck Island, and then there's a little water after that, and that is Georgian Bay. I don't think he's seeing the far side of Georgian Bay. I think that's a little too far away. Now, if you look at his line of sight, noted in red here, you can see where Hudson Bay would be looking over Big Duck Island, or Great Duck Island. What he's not seeing is that entire arm just to the right that comes down. What he's claiming is Hudson Bay is a long, flat cloud bank. If it had actually been Hudson Bay, which of course would be impossible, you would see that huge arm coming down to the right. Now he's going to swing back. Look for the bay of Alpena, Michigan.
Yeah, there's the darkness there. And see,
there
now
it
the
is.
darkness kind of went away in that
right there.
Because we're looking in a different direction. So yeah, even horizontally that corresponds sort of with the angles that we should be seeing Hudson Bay at.
Now just to orient you, that's Alpena Bay right there. And just beyond it is northern Lake Huron going into the Straits of Mackinac.
And I think that's Lake
No, actually, that's the water around Drummond Island in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan.
Yeah, this stuff is amazing, folks. Just amazing.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and just stop that there. As we've demonstrated, he's identifying objects that are well within the horizon based on his aircraft height. However, he's making objects up out of cloud banks beyond that by applying an inappropriate scale to the photograph. He's fine sometimes in this video with clearly identifiable islands, but beyond that, his identifications are completely erratic and unreliable. What's more, the horizon at 215 miles is clearly identifiable in many of these photographs. However, he attributes things above that to be things like Hudson Bay because that's where his scale says that it should be. In reality, they're just a cloud bank. Now finally, I want to highlight All Gray Matters. He's a small channel, but is a fellow pilot and does some really good analytical work on some of these photographs of JTolan. I especially like his technique of backtracking the altitude and position of the aircraft carrying the photographer. It's similar to my technique, but a little bit more technical. And while my technique gives a reliable position, his does that and gives an altitude as well. I'd take it as a personal favor if you'd all stop by his channel, maybe give him a little like and subscribe. Help him build his channel a little bit.
Let's begin with the scene where he compares one of the images with a view from Google Earth. While it is difficult to replicate an exact scene as taken from an airplane with unknown lenses, position, altitudes, and other factors, I have found a position and altitude that matches the picture somewhat closely, overlaid it onto the image taken from the video, and I have come up with a vastly different result. Next, JTolan literally demonstrates curvature, then calls it a mystery of the flat Earth and sweeps it under the rug as curved windows, haze, and other things. I couldn't make this up if I tried. Here's the clip.
The features underneath and how closely it is matched. And notice where the horizon is. It's not even close, folks. Trust your eyes, folks. Just looking at that, we can tell it's flat and it just keeps going. But yet, there is a mystery here, folks. Our view is interrupted or cut off. That's the mystery, and we can sort of see a curve. It's like it's both flat, but it's also round. What is that phenomena? It's like the flat Earth is just terminating out there. Let's have a look at this graphic. Notice the curvature here, the curved edge, and then I drew a straight line, and we can tell it's flat, but yet all of a sudden it's truncated. Is it a curved window effect? Is it visibility blocked by haze? Very mysterious, folks. I think it could be both. Let's continue.
JTolan, there is no mystery. This is what we see and expect to see on our global Earth. Thank you for providing this evidence. Welcome. In this video, we will be examining data given to us in one of JTolan Media1's long-distance infrared videos, where he is observing Las Vegas from an airplane, and according to his video, is 190 miles away and at 28,000 feet of altitude. I have identified some discrepancies in his data that I would like to share with you, and have you confirm if you would like to. Let's begin with information about the flight. He does not supply exact information, but in the comments section of the video I found this. According to this, the flight was a United flight from KLAX, Los Angeles, to KMCO, Orlando, Florida, around 10 a.m. on the 29th of May of 2018. With a quick search on FlightAware, the most likely match is United Airlines Flight 261. It regularly departs between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. This flight plan is usually filed at either 31,000 feet or 33,000 feet, most likely depending on forecasted winds. The filed airspeed is usually in the mid-500s in miles per hour. The history available on FlightAware shows this flight typically flown with Boeing 737 equipment. In the video, the picture of the wing appears to be an Airbus 320, but United does operate those, so it could very well have been used on the flight. Both aircraft are close enough in performance for the purposes of this video. The historical weather for the date flown shows about 30 to 60 mile per hour tailwinds in the vicinity of the flight at 30,000 feet when the picture is taken. I will use 600 miles per hour as an expected actual speed for the flight. Next, we will look at the numbers used later in the video for visible terrain and structures in the Las Vegas area. JTolan uses an elevation of 3,000 feet for the Stratosphere Tower in Las Vegas, but in actuality it is at 3,229 feet. He also uses an elevation for the top of Black Mountain of 5,000 feet. In actuality it is at 5,092 feet. Correcting the math presented for these numbers, we get a lower theta angle of 1.2633 degrees instead of the 1.4 degrees used in the video. This may not seem significant, but if you project this to the claimed 190 miles, we get an altitude of 25,352 feet instead of the 27,747, which is close enough to the claimed 28,000, but erroneous because of the incorrect data. All of this is assuming an ability to accurately estimate alignment between the two elevations as seen in the video. Because of the inability to accurately estimate the alignment of the mountain with the Stratosphere Tower, I would like to attempt to derive the actual distance and altitude of the aircraft from Las Vegas. As discussed, JTolan claims the distance to Las Vegas from the airplane to be 190 miles and 28,000 feet, based on information from his GPS. He does not provide information on when that altitude data was observed, and it is too low to be the final cruising altitude of his aircraft. Using FlightAware to explore similar flights, the aircraft would likely be climbing to 31,000 or 33,000 feet, and was probably climbing to a higher altitude during his GPS observation. Also worth noting is that similar flights typically reach their cruising altitude in the vicinity of the proposed location of the video observation. So in looking for some positions to begin an analysis of the speed of the aircraft, I started at the 2 minute and 30 second point. So I'm looking for the alignment of the Stratosphere Tower and a peak that I can identify. Now I've identified this, that was my starting point right there. I have identified that peak and the position, and I've extended a line from that peak from the stratosphere over the ground. The next position I'm going to use is at 2 minutes and 46 seconds, right there, right before he cuts back and then ends the video. As far as I can tell, that video was in real time the whole time. Let me play it again, starting at 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So here's my starting marker. You can see the stratosphere traveling in relationship to the land, and when it gets into this valley right here just prior to that peak is my ending marker. So I've identified these locations on Google Earth that match up with the terrain that's depicted in the video. I've marked the first peak that was lined up with the stratosphere at the 2 minute and 30 second mark. The stratosphere is out here. Using the alignment of identifiable markers on the ground over time, we can calculate what the speed of the aircraft would have to be at various distances from Las Vegas. When we compare these to the expected speed of the aircraft, we can derive a reasonable viewing distance. I would like to add that it would have been much easier had JTolan supplied actual data to verify, rather than leaving it us to figure it out. I have determined that at the claimed 190 miles, the aircraft speed would have to be traveling at 675 miles per hour, much higher than reasonably expected. A distance, assuming a generous 600 miles, would be about 166 miles. When we extend the proper theta angle to 166 miles, we get 22,500 feet above a flat Earth, which is well below what the altitude of the aircraft would be there. This demonstrates that the video presented by JTolan does not show a flat Earth, and in fact shows what we expect with known curvature on a globe.
JTolan Media1 has some wonderful cameras, very high quality equipment, and takes beautiful infrared photographs. Unfortunately, he's got quite an imagination when it comes to identifying objects in those photographs, as we've seen in several examples here. He misidentifies landmarks on mountains. He misidentifies bodies of water. And one of his biggest sins is that he comes up with this distance scale and then tries to find things in clouds that somehow remind him of what he should see at this indicated distance. The problem is that he's not looking at this from an aspect of Google Earth and seeing what he would expect. A band of darkness is not. I don't even think he looked at an advanced curve calculator, much less included refraction in his San Jacinto observations. He certainly didn't look at it on those observations of the Great Lakes that I reviewed to see what he should and should not be able to see, and then specifically look for something beyond that distance that he could clearly identify, rather than just calling a cloud layer Hudson Bay or Lake Superior. Not only did he not properly range things on his photographs, he clearly identified Earth curvature in a number of them, admitted that it appeared to be Earth curvature, and then just basically hand-waved it off. In science, our conclusions are based upon our data. In the flat Earth, it is a narrative that they have to try and find things to support, and they will claim things support it even if they don't, or there's no indication that they're even looking at the right object on a photograph. That's actually kind of sad. Well, thank you for tuning in. This is Bob the Science Guy. Please check out these two links to these channels that I put in the description. They're good channels, and you should have a look at them, maybe drop them a like or a subscribe. Tell them Dr. Bob sent you. So, signing out from Northern Michigan, this is Bob the Science Guy, and we will see you soon.
This rabbit hole's too deep.